Welcome to our journey. You are here, and that's a significant step. In the stories that follow, we won't just talk about learning English. We'll talk about how you can find confidence and joy in this language. We believe that learning a new language isn't a test, but an adventure. And on that path, you might sometimes get lost. You might stumble, but the important thing is that you can always get up and continue. Let's explore real stories from people who have been exactly where you are now, people who were nervous about speaking English, who were confused when they couldn't keep up with a conversation. Through these stories, you'll realize you're not alone, and more importantly, you'll learn valuable lessons, simple but effective techniques, to transform English from a barrier into a powerful tool. Before we begin, take a moment to ask yourself, do you feel confident when you read English, but nervous when you have to speak? Do you find it hard to follow fast conversations? Do you struggle to explain your ideas clearly, even though you know the words in your head? If you answered yes to any of these, then these stories are for you. We will look at real-life situations, everyday moments that have helped many people build confidence in both their listening and speaking skills. Tom and the fateful meeting in Tokyo was a young architect with a big dream, to design unique buildings around the world. That dream led him to a business trip in Tokyo, Japan. It was the first time Tom had to use English regularly in a professional setting. In meetings, he listened to his colleagues and partners, but he felt like he was swimming in a foreign ocean of words. The English he heard was not like the English in his textbooks. It was faster, full of idioms he had never heard, and people often talked over one another. Tom sat there, his mind tense, trying to catch every single word, but the harder he tried, the more he felt left behind. One afternoon, after a stressful meeting, a colleague named Sarah came up to him. She saw the worry on his face and gently said, "Don't worry about the small details, Tom. Focus on the big picture." Tom didn't understand what Sarah meant, the big picture. He was trying to understand every single word. How could he ignore the details? But in the next meeting, Sarah's advice echoed in his head. Instead of trying to translate every word, Tom started listening differently. He focused on the main idea the speaker was trying to convey. He realized that even when he didn't know a word, he could still understand the overall meaning of a sentence based on the context and tone. He started to realize that understanding 80% of the conversation was more than enough for him to participate. He tried to express his opinion, not perfectly, but clearly. He said, "I think we should change the window design to get more natural light." His colleagues nodded in agreement. In that moment, Tom felt a surge of new energy. He had communicated successfully. That confidence helped him relax, and when he relaxed, listening became easier. Lesson from Tom: perfection is not the goal. Effectiveness is what matters. You don't need to understand every word to communicate. Focus on the big picture, the main idea of the story. This reduces pressure and allows you to join the conversation more naturally. Maria, and the power of headphones. Maria was a student who moved to an English-speaking country for college. At first, she found it difficult to join group discussions. Her classmates spoke very quickly, and they used a lot of slang she had never learned. In those conversations, Maria felt like an outsider. She often stayed silent and listened, hoping to learn something. But that silence didn't help her improve her speaking skills. She realized she had to be more proactive. Maria decided to bring English into her daily life. She started listening to podcasts about topics she loved, like movies and music. At first, she only caught bits and pieces, but she didn't give up. She listened to them repeatedly. And slowly, she started to recognize the phrases and expressions the speakers used. She wrote them down in a small notebook. One day, while chatting with a classmate about a movie, she used a phrase she had learned from a podcast. It was a real tearjerker. Her friend smiled and said, "Wow, Maria, your English is really improving." That simple moment was a turning point for Maria. She realized that listening to real English and then using it in conversation was the key. From then on, she wasn't afraid to use the new phrases she had learned. When she didn't understand something, she would bravely ask, "I'm sorry, what do you mean? Or could you please speak a little slower?" Lesson from Maria: you can create your own English learning environment. Podcasts, movies, and YouTube videos are excellent tools to expose yourself to natural English. More importantly, try to use what you've learned. Applying real phrases in conversation helps you remember them longer and feel more confident. Daniel, and the brave choice. Daniel worked in a busy office where English was the main language. He was a smart guy, but in meetings, he often kept quiet. His fear of making mistakes prevented him from speaking his mind. He thought he had to speak perfect English before he could participate. A colleague of his, Lily, felt the same nervousness, but Lily had a different approach. She decided it was better to make a mistake than to stay silent. In one project meeting, Lily raised her hand and shared an idea. Her sentence wasn't perfectly correct grammatically, but everyone understood her point. To her surprise, her colleagues not only understood, but also appreciated her contribution. That positive response encouraged Lily to speak more often, and the more she spoke, the more her listening skills improved. 2. She was no longer afraid to ask questions, and this helped her follow conversations more effectively. Lesson from Daniel and Lily: nobody is perfect, and mistakes are not your enemy. They are part of the learning process. Daring to speak your mind not only improves your speaking skills but also hones your listening. When you actively participate, you'll better understand how people communicate and how conversations flow. When mistakes become lessons. Emma worked at a clothing store. One day, a customer came in and spoke very quickly. Emma couldn't follow what they were saying. At first, she panicked, but instead of pretending to understand, Emma took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry. Could you please speak a little slower? I want to make sure I understand everything." The customer smiled and repeated their request slowly. It turned out to be a minor misunderstanding. After they sorted it out, Emma felt so proud. That moment taught her that asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. It shows that you are engaged and care about the conversation. Mark and the change in mindset. Mark used to think he had to have perfect grammar before he could join a conversation. He stayed silent because he was afraid of making mistakes, but he gradually realized that his silence was preventing him from improving. One day, he decided to change. He joined a team discussion at work and shared his opinion, even though he wasn't sure about the grammar. His colleagues still understood him. Mark realized something important. Communication is more important than perfection. Even if his sentences weren't perfectly correct, people still understood him, and by speaking more often, he improved much faster than when he was silent. Lesson from Mark: you don't need to speak perfect English. You just need to speak real English. Start with simple things, and confidence will grow from real-life interactions. Learning from media, watching, listening, and imitating. One of the most effective ways to improve your listening and speaking skills is by using media. Think about watching a favorite sitcom. At first, you might not understand everything. The characters speak quickly, use slang, and often interrupt each other. But don't give up. Be persistent. After a few episodes, you'll start to recognize familiar words and expressions. You can even try to imitate the way the characters speak, their rhythm, their tone, and even their facial expressions. This helps you pronounce words better and sound more natural. Lesson from media learning: watching movies, listening to podcasts, or watching YouTube videos doesn't just teach you vocabulary. It shows you how English is used in real life. They train your ear to get used to different sounds, and your brain will process the information faster. When you imitate, you're training your mouth muscles to produce clearer speech. John and the small questions. John was a friend of mine. He was good at reading English, but he was very afraid to speak. The first time he traveled to an English-speaking country, that fear grew even larger. At the airport, he needed to ask for directions to the train station. It was a simple question, but his heart was racing. He gathered his courage, walked up to an assistant, and asked, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the train station?" The assistant smiled, gave him clear directions, and John understood perfectly. In that moment, he realized something powerful. English doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be effective. From then on, John started practicing by asking small questions throughout his trip, asking for directions, asking for prices, asking for information. Each time, he became more confident. By the end of his journey, he was confident enough to order food, ask for help in shops, and even start small conversations with strangers. Lesson from John: small, daily interactions are the best way to practice English. Every time you use English in real life, you gain experience. Each conversation will make you braver and stronger in the language.